What's up guys, Katlife here to teach you guys how to properly and consistently snowball and win games on Katarina. If you guys are looking for a guide on builds and combos, I have another video going over that which will be at the end screen of this video. This video is more about the game itself and how you should play out games as Katarina. For the full effect, make sure to check out both videos if you really want to improve your Katarina gameplay. I also have a bunch of other guides and informative videos on Katarina. If you guys are interested in those, check out my channel and watch my other videos and you'll definitely learn a lot. Subscribe to my channel, I would greatly appreciate it. And for those of you guys who are already subbed, thank you guys so much for the support. I love you guys. Now let's get into this video. Now I know a lot of you guys feel lost when playing Katarina, so I made this guide to give you the rundown on things you should be focusing on to improve your gameplay and help you win more games. Now the first step is don't get behind. It's way harder to snowball when you set yourself behind. Keep it even at minimum. It's sometimes okay to take risks to try to get kills to get ahead. Just make sure it's more of a calculated risk. Be smart and don't blindly go in because it'll make the game that much harder for you if you end up dying. Early levels, your ideal goal is to farm safely and punish any positional errors that the enemies make. Next step is pressuring the lane. From the very start of laning phase, you want to set your enemy up for pokes and all-ins. Ideally, you want to keep them shoved into you so you have more room to work with and the enemy will have to overextend for farm, making them prone to your all-ins and jungle ganks. You can set up on the enemy in a few ways. Simultaneously last hit with your Q and set up on the enemy. E in to poke and trade, and E out. If the enemy overextends in the lane, you can eat WQ, E in, or E out accordingly. Remember to adapt depending on the champion you're versing. If you manage to pick up a kill, then you have the choice of continually pursuing solo kills on the enemy or start pressuring the map. To continue pursuing solo kills, you play very lane focused and continue to manage the wave in your favor. Keep the enemy pushed into you and try to freeze the wave to constantly make the enemy overextend so you can set up. Hard shove the wave into their tower once the wave starts pushing towards them, and slow push when the wave is pushing towards you. This is effective for abusing and denying your enemy laner, but remember that you can't pressure the map during this slow process. The only time is when you get the solo kill and then have free roam on the map until the enemy responds, but again, it's a slow process depending on the enemy. If you feel the need to help out your teammates, then that brings me to my next step, pressuring the map. Now this is a more consistent and selfless way to snowball since you're helping your teammates get ahead, ultimately making your job easier. This strategy can also be applied in even lanes and even harder matchups for Katarina. This is super helpful because you don't need to be fed or ahead to do this. Just keeping up the pressure in your lane can lead to kills and help you snowball. Whether your opponent down with pokes to gain lane control, shove in your wave freely whenever you feel like you need to pressure the map. Katarina can shove waves fast with 2 daggers and the enemy will be more inclined to get the CS rather than poke you out if the wave is being shoved in. Make sure the enemy doesn't freeze on you either. Keep track of when the next minion wave will come. Sometimes you want to stack 2 waves and shove it so you'll have more downtime to pressure till the next wave comes. Doing this will limit the enemy's movement and will allow you to freely run around the map to create pressure, make opportunities to pick up kills, and get your teammates ahead. Remember to be smart about this. You won't be able to do this all the time depending on the matchup and your team's situation. But the main goal here is to keep the enemy laner mid so they don't freely run around the map and create pressure. You want to be the one proactively creating the pressure and controlling the pace of the game. The next step is be present by roaming. There's a huge power in numbers in a team game like League of Legends. Ideally, you want to be there for any type of fight or skirmish to help your team win those fights. Using the last tip to allow you to relieve the pressure on yourself in lane, you're able to roam the map and actually be present. But roaming gets complicated. Sometimes you may feel like you're not roaming efficiently and that you're wasting your time. Well, here are 3 situations where you can get successful roams. Roam when the enemy overextends. This one is obvious. When the enemy is overextending in the lane, go roam and pick up easy kills. Roam when your team overextends. This is more of a read, and it's not always guaranteed, but you'll be surprised at how effective it is to do this. When you see your team pushing out too far, start running down and expect the enemy jungler to gank. It's surprisingly effective, and the more you do it, the more you'll start to get the feel of when your team is vulnerable enough for potential ganks. Roam for skirmishes and team fights. If the fight is happening close to where you are, 100% go help and see what you can do. If the fight is happening at bot or top while you're mid, push in your wave and roam to help. The main thing here is to create downtime for you to roam so you don't create disadvantages in your lane. If the fight is over before you get there, go back to your lane in time to catch the next wave. Next step is abuse mid-game Gunblade power spike. Now this is where the magic happens. This is where Katarina is the strongest. Combine the use of pressure, presence, and objective play to close out the game. Your goal is to overwhelm your opponent, making them feel like anything they do, they'll just get wiped. Now before I go more in depth, I want to mention one crucial thing. Stay alive. I'm not talking about fighting with your team and never dying. Ideally you want to team fight and throw out everything you can to contribute to your team's victory. But don't overextend for solo plays and going 1-for-1. Your mid-game power spike is way too valuable to be going 1-for-1, and every death will slowly bring it to late game, making things very difficult for you. Your team needs you, and you need them, so team fight. That's where you excel. Now, the most important part about mid-game is objective play. Stacking objective wins will give you more and more advantages, which will turn into an unstoppable lead. Tell your team to group for objectives like Dragon and Baron to force the enemy into unfavorable fights. If Dragon and Baron are down, go for towers. Pressure them with your team using big waves or strong split pushers. Remember that at this point, you want to stick around your team as much as possible for potential fights. Hover around your teammates in case the enemy try to engage on them, then go for a counter engage. After every fight won, always look to get more objectives. Slowly you want to destroy everything leading up to their nexus. Another point I want to talk about is making picks. This is very effective, especially for Katarina because of Gunblade. Gunblade allows you to set up picks on any champ who overextends. When enemy carries are going for a wave, use the minions to gap close onto the enemy. Gunblade and throw out your rotation for easy picks, but be careful with this. If you die, you give the enemy a lot of breathing room. Only do this when you can guarantee a kill and get out. Also, if your team isn't very good at pushing towers, go into their jungle and try to make picks. It's safer to do this on the side of the jungle without any enemy towers. Try to read your opponent. If there's a big wave bot, expect it and be ready to pick them off. If the enemy's buff is up, expect them to go for it and pick them off. It's a lot of reading, but you'll start to notice patterns that a lot of players do that you can take advantage of. Make sure the jungle is cleared with pinks or red trinket, or else it is very risky. Remember that just like team fights, picks should also lead straight into objectives. Use your numbers advantage to overpower your enemy. And lastly, let's talk about late game. Now, obviously, you never want to get into late game. You're probably in the late game because you couldn't close out the game properly and you and your team kept dying in the process. Well, if it ever gets to late game, play very team oriented and objective based. Group, make plays with your team, and be patient in team fights. Wait out TC and find the right time to go in. Remember that you don't always need to jump on the backline. You can focus the front line for your ADC in order to keep them alive because your ADC will be very strong late game. You need your team here for you to win team fights. Any win you can get, transition them into objectives. You can use tips mentioned before if you can find openings to gain advantages. Just don't die in the process or else your team will lose a lot of pressure. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this guide helps you win your games and be a more consistent Katarina player. I went over a lot of important things, and not only will it help you out as a Katarina player, but it will help you become a better League of Legends player overall. So I would greatly appreciate it if you guys like the video and share it with your friends. Spread the knowledge, spread the love, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
Okay, it's Childish, Gambino, homegirl drop it like the NASDAQ. Move white girls like this coke up my ass crack. Move black girls, cause man fuck it, I'll do either. I love pussy, I love bitches, dude, I I should be running Peter in Adidas with some short shorts. B-O-O all over me. My green is where it's supposed to be. Your green is in my grocery. This Asian